Hi everyone, it's Andrea over at Sewspire.com, and today I am here to show you how to sew a modified version of this 3-compartment caddy which I designed a few years back. So this here is the original prototype, which I'll link to down in the notes to that original tutorial. And I have had it in use all these years, but what I've come to realize is I rarely use these exterior pockets. They don't really function very well. So I wanted to take this opportunity to revisit this design so that I could eliminate the exterior pockets and then assemble this caddy using the modified T method, which will result in some cleaner corners for us here. So we can compare the two after they're done, and then if for some reason you really do need those exterior pockets or you like the look of this one better, then you have the option of working with the tutorial that suits your needs best. So in addition to this step-by-step tutorial, I'm also going to create a design board. If you're not familiar, the design boards are PDF documents that have all the pattern measurements, the supply list and material requirements, and then step-by-step concise written instructions and a little bit of room for your maker notes. So I'm committed to creating a design board for every tutorial in 2021. And I'll put the link to my Etsy pattern shop in the description for you as well. So we are going to go ahead and get started sewing today. I want to begin with the interior compartments, which are going to be crafted from 6 panels which measure 7.5 by 7.5. And so you're going to position those panels right sides facing and then sew up 3 of the sides. So I'm going to sew the sides and the base, but since all of the sides are equal length, you can just sew up 3 sides, and then we will use the fat corner method to add the depth to these interior compartments. So we're going to begin there. For this project, I am using a 3.0 stitch length and a 90/14 needle. I have a full bobbin in the machine, and I'm fairly confident we can finish this entire project in one segment. So shall we get started? So to sew these, I'm going to go ahead and use 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. I'm working with a Waverly home decor fabric, and I do not have any interfacing on these 7.5 inch squares. Okay, so I've sewn around 3 sides, so I basically have 3 little envelopes here. Now what I want to do is reach inside and align that base seam with that side seam, and then create a stitch line across there that's 3 inches wide that will allow me to add 3 inches of depth to each corner of each of these 3 compartments. So you can finger press that to get the stitch line in there, and then you're just going to stitch right across that. And then you'll repeat that process for the other side. So again, aligning the side seam and the base seam to create this little triangle there, and then pressing in a 3-inch wide stitch line and stitching right across that. And then that's what gives those little interior compartments their depth. So you'll want to go ahead and trim to the right of your stitch line there to minimize that bulk. And then you can discard those little corners and fold over that top edge on that anywhere from a 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch should be fine. And so it's a little like cubby. You're going to go ahead and repeat that process for the remaining 2 interior compartments. Okay, so now I have fashioned the 3 little cubbies, and that's going to create the 3-way divided interior for this project. So you want to position those little cubbies so that the side seams are facing towards you and away from you. And then you're going to go ahead and line those cubbies up and just put 2 clips on each side there. And so that's what that looks like for right now, and we're just going to set that aside. And now we're going to work on the exterior, which is also crafted from the home decor fabric, but for this I did back it with a fusible 808 or 809. Any lightweight interfacing is fine for this project. And so for this I have 3 panels which measure 9 by 6, and that's going to comprise the base, the front, and the back. And then I have 2 side panels which measure 6 by 6. So for this we're going to use the modified T method to construct that. So I'm going to position those side panels on one of those larger rectangles. And then using the same 3/8 of an inch seam allowance, I'm going to join those sides to that larger rectangle. And then that creates a 3-way panel. Set that aside for a moment. And then you're going to position the remaining 2 rectangles right sides facing, 3/8 of an inch seam allowance down one of those sides to join. And that creates a 2-way panel, which then you're going to position right sides facing on top of that 3-way panel, and you're going to center that and then stitch seam to seam, which if you've been watching the channel for some time you know is different than end to end. We're just going from the side seam to the side seam. And now I have the large T, hence the T method. So up until a few months ago, we used to go ahead and join the sides. Now with the modified T method, we're going to join the base of the side with the side of the base. So we're basically folding that over and lining up those edges nice and straight, and again stitching seam to seam. And then we will repeat that process on the other side, aligning the base of the side with the side of the base and stitching seam to seam. And now you have the stage. Then you're just going to raise up that opposite wall and join those sides to create that exterior. Okay, so the exterior is complete. Those corners look really good. And so now you just want to turn that around. Right side's facing out. Poke out those corners nice. And then you can take that top edge and fold that over about 1/2 inch. And with the inner facing, you may have to clip that down to get it to hold. I like to get all the corners in place first. And that's what that looks like. A nice little rectangular box. I love that blue on the bottom. I wish I could see more of that. Okay, so now we can test fit our little cubbies, which we've got just temporarily clipped together, and that's looking like a good fit to me. So what you want to do is start at the center of one of the ends and just use that same clip to collect that interior compartment and the exterior, and then go back to the other side and do the same thing. The main objective with the fitting is just to make sure that you space that material so that the interior meets up with the exterior, so that when we start stitching, everything gets connected. So in the case of this project, it's just not something that you can perfect, but rather you want to aim for function. And I think it is kind of nice to use the same fabric on the interior, because then there's less distinction with the eye where those seams are. It may not bother you at all. You may, in fact, you may not. You may wonder even what I'm talking about with those seams. But I know some people like to have everything evenly spaced. In this case, it really isn't going to impact the project. It just might impact you visually. Okay, so I am happy with the fit on this. I'm happy with the stability on this. If you did want a little additional stability, an option is to insert a piece of Pellon 70 that is slightly smaller than your base, and just fit that right inside of the exterior before you tuck in or drop in these compartments, and then that'll give you a little more stability on the base. But again, I'm good with this how it is. So I also have some little handles here that I want to add to this project, and they are 3 inches wide by 13 inches long. I had much shorter handles on this one, and I may end up shortening these, but I think it could be nice to have a little longer handle. And what I want to do, instead of putting them on the ends, I want to put them on the front here, so I can kind of carry this like a cute little purse instead of a caddy. So we're going to see what happens with that, but I'm going to go ahead and stitch up these straps. So if you are new to Sewspire, to craft the straps, I fold that long piece of fabric in half long ways, press, then I bring those outer edges inward to meet on that center press line, fold that over and press again. I like to begin by stitching down the open edge and then following up with a second row of stitching on the opposite edge. Repeat that process for my second strap. So I have my little straps ready, and those I want to insert at center between the first and last compartment. And for the straps, I do like to transition to the pins so that nothing shifts. So this is about 3/4 of an inch from each side on the exterior, if that helps you a bit. It is really cute. It'd be fun just to carry this around. You probably wouldn't use it much outside of the house, but it could be really nice to use in your sewing room, just to bop around from surface to surface. Put some snacks in there, your glasses, your seam ripper. Oh yeah, super cute. Okay, so here's what I have, darling. And now the fun begins. We need to work in between these center dividers here to start attaching all the layers. So I'm going to begin in this front compartment, slightly past this handle, right up against where the first compartment meets the second compartment. And I'm going to stitch a U all the way around, just beyond that handle. Then I'm going to come over on the other side, right where the two compartments join, start, attach the handle, sew around into a U and stop. Then I'm going to stitch across the front and join those two seams, across the back and join those two seams, and then I'm going to come into the center and join those two seams. So you do have to break the thread several times. This is a part of the project where you should just go nice and slow, focus, make sure nothing shifts. So I tried fitting this up on the machine deck, and these clips are just creating too much bulk for what I need to accomplish. So I am going to remove those and put these long, awesome tulip pins in place of my favorite clips. Okay, so everything is still intact. It's just I've transitioned to the pins, which are going to make this much easier because now I can kind of flatten that and get it up on that machine deck. Okay, so I just want to back this in as close as I can to where those two compartments are joined, and then I'm going to go ahead and stitch that first U. And the right hand edge of my foot is aligned with the top edge of the caddy. And as I go here, I'm just keeping my eye on that top seam and making sure that everything's staying aligned. Alright, so I have the first U in place, which spanned a little beyond the handle and around that side, and then a little beyond the handle. Now I'm going to get that second U in place on the opposite side. Okay, the second side is secure. So basically the ends at this point are secured. Now I want to come across the front and the rear and do my best to line up those seams. I still may have to come in with some touch-ups in between. The real goal here is not to overlap the stitch at the point where the compartments join, so just fall short before you overstitch, because you can come back in from the interior and join those. And then if needed, make any adjustments. I didn't like how that had slipped down in there just a bit, so I'm just going to remove those stitches and I will connect them in my touch-up. So the next thing I want to do is come in now and stitch those two dividers across the top. And so you just move everything but that fabric out of the way and back it in on there and stitch across. Okay, so now I have the sides secure, the interior dividers secure, and for the most part the front and rear center secure. I did rip out a few of those stitches, so I have some touch up that I need to do here, so I'm going to do that now. And then go ahead and trim up all of your threads and then have a good look at it and see if you need to come in and just connect any of those stitch lines. You should be fairly close. There may just be one or two areas where you'd like to add a stitch or two just to give it that connectivity. And depending upon what color your fabric is and what color thread you selected, you may not even notice. And it's done. It's so cute. Oh, I really like it. So I have 3 cute little cubby compartments here that I could put my loot in, and then I have 2 handles that make it really easy to transport from surface to surface. Finish this measures 8 inches across the front and back and 5.5 inches on the side, and then it is approximately 5 inches tall. And these little handles have a cute little 4-inch drop. This would be really nice to have in the car too. Gosh, for cosmetics in the bathroom, like I think this is pretty universal tote here. Almost anybody would enjoy receiving one of these. So as promised, I want to show you the difference between the two. So I would say this one with its open top and the handles on the side make it easier to access the contents. Like if you had it filled up with snaps or buttons or whatever, something that you wanted to reach in there and be able to get really, or clips for that matter, something you wanted to be able to get really easily, this would be the preferred style. However, if you want to be able to move it from surface to surface or transport it in any way, I would go with this style here. So I hope you enjoyed the project. As always, it's an absolute pleasure to share my original designs with you. Again, if you're interested, I have a design board for this project and all of the other projects that we have been recently working on since I started creating these design boards. So you can find that link down in the notes. I will be back next Tuesday with another inspired project, and I can hardly wait to see you. Until then, as always, please know the creative genius in me will be celebrating the creative genius in you. Have a beautiful week, everyone. Thank you for sewing with me.